कैवल्य क्लीं कैवल्य क्लीं कैवल्य क्लीं कैवल्य
Namaste and welcome to Kaivalya Marga class on these holy days of Navaratri, where we contemplate on the divine Shakti principle, the supreme energy that emanates from the Shiva consciousness and is the cause of all of this creation and becomes creation itself. Let us mindfully get into the satsang, into this class, with the 3 Oms. For the last 3 days, we have been studying this divine energy that many students in the path of yoga understand or know or heard of as the Kundalini. In the past few days, I have been making feeble attempts to share what I learned from my own path in this beautiful journey of awakening into higher realms, where you begin to understand that the life we are experiencing through the senses is a very small portion of what one can experience through this body. My Sadguru Sai Baba would often say that it is the greatest opportunity to be born as a human being, because it is only through the human birth can one realize divinity. So it is believed that even the divine beings, the devatas, crave to be born as a human being just to experience this joy of awakening, undertaking this journey into the higher consciousness. Such is the great joy that this path gives us. And therefore, there are no words to really justify. There is no one class, 2 classes, or 100 classes that can give you an idea of what this path can offer, contain, unless you begin to tread on it and open doors to higher consciousness. And when you take those baby steps, you incur divine grace. And everything that you need, be it a lesson, be it a clarification, be it a teacher who will point you to the right path, be it a friend, be it a guide, be it a book, everything will come at the right time, at the right place. This is my belief. If we just focus on the path and focus on the sadhana, on spirituality, believing in tuning into the divine, calling upon the highest for grace, then the path never fails. If you depend on X or Y to lead you there, if you depend, is you heavily rely on one guru here or one guru there to awaken the Shakti within you, and if that's not happening and somebody says something happened to them, it's not happened to you, and so on, this comparing, contrasting doesn't get you anywhere. Each one of us has this line to divinity. And so I want to make it very clear what I'm sharing is my path. And I'm sharing it because I'm being guided to do so, to explain to you that this path is very real and it's not some fantasy. So today we are in the fourth dimension. It's a third chakra, but because the granthis are not, we studied Brahma Granthi yesterday. So we have Vishnu Granthi in middle, and then you have Rudra Granthi. So the Granthis are not really, it's like the shadow planets, if you will, like Rahu, Ketu type. They're in a even more astral level. And therefore, they're not considered as definite power centers. But their influence is very high. The inability for the prana and apana to enter into Shushumna, to lock you into meditation, is because of the block created by the knots. So now let us go beyond that knot. Beyond this knot, beyond the Brahma Granthi, the journey is absolutely beautiful and supremely blissful and guided. Provided the sadhaka, the person who is practicing this path of the Kundalini, is living that strict life that is required as per the yoga scriptures. When I say strict, let us say if you need to be rated out of 10 in the strictness of your discipline, the universe is very, very graceful. Even if you do 60-70% of what is required, you will begin to experience the beauty of it. But you will not experience anything by 1 and 2. What makes it erratic and uncontrollable is we practice the 6-7 rating sadhana, in other words, intense sadhana for a few weeks, and then something happens, and then we lose interest. The sadhana dies down, it comes down to 1 or 2 rating, and then it stays there for many weeks and months, and then you come back again. This kind of erratic practice doesn't get anyone anywhere. So then we are caught in between. That is why I talked about Brahma Granthi yesterday. We understand Brahma Granthi. It is a very important Granthi to break through. And we do get the breakthroughs, but we get pulled back because the knot is very intricate knot. It is a knot that has been existing over many lifetimes. Nevertheless, with the grace of God, with namasmarana, with intense yogic practices, with a strict spiritual discipline, it is easy to break through. It is possible, not easy, but it's possible to break through the knot. And then you have to keep up that practice so that you can use that to sustain and go to higher levels. So today is Manipuraka Chakra. Let's explore Manipuraka Chakra. Manipuraka Chakra or Manipura Chakra. Manipuraka. I've had a guru who talked about Manipuraka, so that word keeps coming, but it's Manipura Chakra. Manipura Chakra is the fourth chakra in the region of the navel, right behind the belly button. So from Mooladhara, the line goes straight up. It crosses the navel, 1 inch perhaps behind the navel lies this region of this vortex, if you will, of energy. Why is it called Manipura? Manipuraka Chakra or Manipura. Mani is jewel. So this is a place where a jewel is given to you. It's a jewel. It can also be understood as city of jewels or the city of the jewel. This is where the I begins to take birth, the ego, the ahankara, and then it performs. So you see, when you think of the I, everything revolves around you. What does that mean? If you are facing me and we ask each other, which side is the east? You might say, it is to my left side. I will say, wait a minute, it's to my right side. East is where it is. East is east. But it could change. It could be in a different direction depending on where you are facing. Right? So it depends if you are facing north, if you are facing south, east becomes either to your left or to your right and so on. So like this in all directions, not only directions, the concept of up and down also becomes relative. The concept of black and white therefore becomes relative. The concept of good and bad, all of these become relative. Relative to the I in us. So the I is the jewel that is born in this chakra. So let me take this analogy of a baby for better understanding. When a baby is born, a couple of weeks before the birth, life is fully there in the baby, in the womb of the mother, but the baby is in a completely different state, alive and yet absorbed. And a couple of weeks after the birth, the baby is still completely absorbed, like the darkest part of the night, pre-dawn time. Why? Because you'll see the baby's eyes are open and is doing all of this, but still it is not, the senses are not come alive. The consciousness is not developed. The baby is not aware of its sexuality or nationality or religion or belief, none of that, right? It's zero. There's no shame, nothing. There's no thought in that baby at that moment. Consciousness simply exists. And the consciousness is simply wallowing in the stories of all the past births. The blueprint is revealing itself at that level. You will know it if you go into meditation and understand this part. But for us, in this class, for now, right now, just understand it. Think of a newborn baby. Nothing, the baby doesn't seem to know anything. The baby is completely self-involved. The consciousness of the baby is involved in itself. The senses are not even functioning at that point. So, that is the Mooladhara state, consciousness. That is where we go to in deep meditation. When the Mooladhara begins to open, we go back to that childhood state, and from there we get to connect and get to see and understand and relive past experiences. Okay. Then, within a few weeks, slowly the hearing comes in first. The hearing. Space comes in. And then the baby begins to listen to sounds. You snap a finger here, she turns her head here, she turns her head there. She begins to focus, and slowly senses come into being. Senses begin to define a new reality for this consciousness, begins to tame this consciousness, trap this consciousness, however you want to call these words. Begin to define this consciousness in the form of senses. The baby still doesn't have an ego or I. She still doesn't understand shame, fear, hatred, because all that stems from the I. She doesn't understand emotions, attachment, love, none of those. She's just experiencing senses, right? You have seen this. You put colorful, this thing, the baby's attention is caught up there. The little colorful things that go over the cradle and all the baby toys, whatever they are called. So anyway, the point is, that is the Swadhisthana chakra. The consciousness is there. Then when the baby grows further, the consciousness begins to develop an I. Okay? And this I continues for the rest of the life. So that consciousness, like I said, these chakras are not completely closed in a non-spiritual. If it's completely closed, like I said in the first class, you are dead. Your body won't even function. So all these chakras are peeled at one level. At a very superficial level, they are peeled. That's why we are even functioning. That's why we have some kind of talent. We are able to speak or sing or even walk, stand, balance, and so on and so forth. All of that. The brain is even able to function because of that. Consciousness of all these centers have peeled to some extent. Peeled means we're talking of layers of peeling, right? I talked about it in the first class. So each of these chakras can open many, many, many layers. And each time they open a different layer, the consciousness becomes even more enriched because you experience a different layer of reality. So the I that is formed gets a definition. This is the same I which reveals itself as the biggest I, the cosmic I, right? It's not different. This I doesn't become that. It reveals itself. The same definition as the Manipuraka chakra begins to open more and more. This I, definition of I, the definition of who you think you are, the definition of who you are really begins to change. So that is revealed in the Manipuraka. So what is the jewel in the city? The jewel is the I. Don't think of I as something bad. If the I is defined to a very small little definition, the definition of the I is quote unquote bad, we say. Bad means because it limits you. Right? I am the pond, I am the pond, I am the pond, I am a little pond. Oh, look at that beautiful river flowing by, I am a little pond. So that is not the fault of the pond, it's a definition. And when the pond begins to think, I am, but what in me there is water, in the river there is water, I can flow and join the river. Now the I from the pond becomes I am the river, right? So the definition of I changes. It is the definition of the I that becomes ahankara and ego and all of that. The I itself is the deity. That's the main deity, the real Brahman, the real Shiva, anything that you want to attribute to that. The revelation of that begins in the Manipuraka chakra. So if you were to ask me, among all these chakras, which is the most important, which is the most beautiful chakra, which is the one that really begins that journey, Manipuraka. Because here, just below this is Brahma Granthi. The mother enters with her two attendants. She enters here. In other words, the Sushumna Nadi, Kundalini enters Sushumna Nadi along with Prana and Apana, the Ida and Pingala, all of them merge into Sushumna. Now Sushumna alone begins to work. So it's an amazing experience, and with that, she's awakened, and in other words, if it's a snake, the snake hisses, gets up, and then it enters into the Sushumna Nadi and begins to come up. I'm going to use less analogy of the snake because a snake has a tendency to give fear to people. So let us keep that out. Not to me. I love them. They come in my dreams all the time, and for me it's a direct symbolism to Kundalini. I have absolutely no fear. I in fact love them, but I don't want to impose my weirdness onto y'all. So we call her the mother. So she awakens and enters. And then the first chakra that she touches upon awakening here is the Manipuraka or Manipura chakra in the navel region. So the navel, imagine symbolically, when the child is born, what is connected to the mother? It is not the finger that is connected. It could have been, right? In creation, right? Let's go back to square one and think, why is the belly button connected, right? They had to cut the umbilical cord. Why is that connection made? Because that causes the separate I. Until then, it is part of the mother. That begins a separate I. That closes the pura. The pura means the city gets closed, and the jewel begins to get revealed, not overnight. So as the child grows up, the I begins to come forth. That is why in the earliest childhood of a child, you give them the best and the highest education. Don't say, oh, now they are kids, they won't understand. Then you are defining that I as not being able to understand. Tell them the highest truth when they are children. They don't assume they don't understand because they have no backlog. They will just absorb it. Oh, okay, so God is in me. Okay, I accept that. They will have no problems accepting it. A 3-year-old, 4-year-old will have no problems accepting it. When I did a workshop many years ago, and this girl is probably now in her teens, she was 3 years old in that little workshop. And I told them to close their eyes, and we did Jyoti meditation or meditation on the lamp. And when she opened her eyes, I asked her, "What did you like it?" And something happened. She does Q&A. She raised her hand. She asked something. I said, "So what did you see?" She said, "I was completely immersed in light." Now, where would a 3-year-old find this, right? Be able to do this. I saw that I clearly, and then it enveloped me, and it was all around me. It was very beautiful. A 3-year-old being able to speak this much, articulate it so well, really was an eye-opener for me. So don't underestimate children. Form that eye, the divine eye in them, and let that grow. It will go through its own hurdles and find its way up, like every tree in this planet. So that is why it is called the jewel. And this eye, like I said, everything revolves around this eye. So here there is a Vayu called Samana Vayu. We talk about Prana Vayu, we talk about Apana Vayu, and we'll talk about these Vayus later more in detail, but here there is a Samana. A Samana Vayu is like a junction box where electricity comes into your home. How does it come into your home from the city's power plant? It comes through wires from the streets, enters your home, and enters into a junction box. From the junction box, we call that the mains, right? Main junction box, electricity box in your home. From there, it gets distributed to wherever it's required. In Manipura Chakra, that's what happens. From it all comes to the eye, and the definition of eye decides what goes where. Truly speaking. Okay? And that eye's instrument in distributing energies is Samana Vayu. This can only be understood theoretically at this point. For clarity of understanding, I'm presenting these. So the eye is formed. Then the energy principle comes, and the energy gets distributed. All the prana that we talk about, prana from food that comes from the earth element, prana from water that comes from the water element, prana from the sun that comes from the warmth and the radiance of the sun. Vitamin D is one of the vehicles of prana. So we can understand that from the sun. Prana from the sun. Prana from the air. Oxygen is another vehicle for prana from the air. So prana from the air that enters the body. Prana from sound energies. So I can shout at you and spoil your mood, correct? So sound as energy. That energy is a vehicle for prana inside. So from sound we derive energies and go. All of this prana, life force, comes into samana, into the Manipuraka. And Manipuraka Chakra, the energies in the Manipuraka Chakra, the deities in the Manipuraka Chakra, they distribute this energy. The Samana Vayu, in other words, distributes this energy. So what is the Manipuraka Chakra? The Manipuraka Chakra is the command center. I mean, you will say Agnya is also command. The word itself is command. Why not Agnya Chakra? That's a different command center. This is the one that helps you function. This is the center that will help you and guide you for all your spiritual practices, which gives you the strength, the energy, the courage, and all of that is given by this. This is the commander, the command center, if you will. The energy here is a very powerful energy. Very powerful energy. So let's study Manipuraka Chakra, the deity in this Manipuraka Chakra. My entire sadhana, my revelations and my practice has been towards the Shaiva philosophy, with Shiva, Parvati and their children, and the symbolism behind Shiva, that energy. That is the only way I can relate to this. Okay? So when I share this, this is my version of what I learned and how I was taught and how I was initiated and so on and so forth. Someday we'll make this pattern into a story and I share more about my personal journey at some point if it makes sense and if I'm allowed to and if I feel it's right. The reason why I do it very hesitatingly is because I don't want my experience to influence yours. We have allowed that to happen elsewhere. So then we begin to compare. That's a problem. It shouldn't be. So anyway, so what I'm sharing is from the Shiva family point of view. And I was raised that way, so my background is like that. And so this has come from many lifetimes. This has been a journey in the making from many lifetimes, right? So it has come to this now. So the deity, and therefore when I reveal these deities or share these deities, always understand this was Sundar's version of the Kundalini. The deity is young Subramanya with his 2 wives. Who is Subramanya? Subramanya is the son of Shiva. The son of Shiva was born from Shiva. And if you go into the Puranic stories, I don't have time to get into the detail of the actual story of the birth of Shiva and all of that. We'll revisit this again when we learn. There is a mantra associated with this. All these mantras, I'm just letting you know now, okay? Later on, we will find a particular day and we'll probably learn it the right way. I hate to call that word initiation, but we'll learn it the right way. But today, these classes, now I'm just, like I said, it's a perfect time to just put it out there. So let it all just come. Young Subramanya with his 2 wives. Why Subramanya? Who is Subramanya? Subramanya's story is, he is the son of Shiva. He has 6 heads. What are these 6 heads? The 6 heads are the 6 chakras. All the 6 chakras. Who is the deity? If there is one energy, let me put it this way, if there is one energy that will guide you and help you cleanse all the 6 chakras and guide you in all these 6 chakras, it is the Murugan energy, the Subramanya energy, the Kartik energy, if you want to understand it. Now don't ask me what happens to Ganesha and all. Every energy has a function, right? So Murugan will help you once Ganesha takes you out of the jungle and Shiva and Shakti help you control your senses and come up, then Murugan takes over. But Murugan's energy is there in those 2 chakras as well. Murugan's energy is there in all. I call him Murugan because that is what it's there in my consciousness. Subramanya or Murugan. Murugan means one who is the most handsome, the son of Shiva. So Soma Skanda, in Kanchipuram there are temples. In the temples in Kanchipuram you have the Murugan temple, and then you have Devi temple, and then you have Shiva temple. So Murugan sits right in between the mother and father. It's called Soma Skandar. Okay, that is a concept of Murugan. Now this Murugan energy itself is so old. These are all from Satya Yugas, right? Millions of years old. So there are many schools of thought, many practices and so on. So that's why I said this is all just my practice and what I learned and how I understand Murugan energy, how he has revealed himself to me. So anyway, what happens is Shakti is in Mooladhara, Shiva is above Sahasrara, and the one that joins them both together is Murugan. Murugan is the one that brings them both together. Murugan is the one that brings them both together. So Devi created Ganesha from the earth element, sandalwood, paste and so on, right? Sandalwood means what? Sandalwood tree. Sandalwood comes from the earth. Gandham, samarpayami, we do that in the puja, right? We apply sandalwood paste as the earth element. Because Ganesha comes from the earth element. Who created Devi? Where is she? She's in the Mooladhara. So Ganesha and she creates Ganesha from down to help clear the dross. Shiva from above. So Murugan comes from Shiva's 3rd eye. So from Shiva's 3rd eye, Murugan comes to help the mother meet the father. In other words, he is the one who joins Shiva and Shakti together. To me, there is no other way I could understand. Very briefly, I was stuck with the Brahma Granthi and these 2 places for years. It was towards the end of the 80s where I bumped into this beautiful guru. When I say end, probably after 85, 86. I had to get my dates right now. So anyway, around that time, after my parents came and settled in the ashram, I began to live with them. And so in the ashram, I was in the ashram throughout. So my practices were not interrupted by my duties in the dorm, in the hostel and everything. It was completely ashram-like lifestyle. And so I delved even more deep. I used to go off early morning to the hills and so on. And I got a chance to meet many devotees. One such person, whom I consider a Siddha Purusha, who used to visit Prashant Nilayam at least twice a year, he revealed his name to me as Appaya. He said he was 75 years old. He looked very, very, very young. He looked perhaps in his 50s. But nevertheless, he was the one who initiated me into Subramanya because, long story short, like I said, I'm running out of time. So long story short, as I became more familiar with him at his practice, he was the one who introduced me into deeper Kundalini aspects, into Yoga Nidra, and taught me. Don't think it was a magical initiation at all. He in fact told me there is no such thing as a magical initiation. He said, somebody gives you the apple in your hand, or you go and you see the tree, you climb the tree and pluck the apple. The apple is the apple. Because somebody gave you, that apple is not more powerful than when you climb the tree and get it. In fact, it's even more juicier when you get it from the tree. He said initiation is like that. If somebody gives you initiation, it's like giving the apple in your hand. Okay? But just merely getting the apple either by climbing the tree or because somebody gave you does nothing to you, right? Unless you begin to eat the apple. So, all of this, so when I say he initiated me or taught me, don't please misunderstand it by some magical initiation. Or when I said yesterday, Baba pressed his toe in my Brahma Granthi area, it was to teach me that location. There was no magic there. In other words, there was no mystical presence there. I would want to make it very clear. But he taught me in that. Later on, there was a very powerful experience which I told in front of Baba's presence. We will talk about that when we come to higher chakras, where it was purely a mystical experience. So don't mistake this and say, oh, you got lucky, you got initiated and all of that. Because we tend to complicate matters. Spirituality is very straightforward and simple. I respect all the traditions of initiations. I have a great respect from them. But it doesn't mean that is the only path. Please understand that. Okay. So I met this person and I told him I'm not able to see anything beyond controlling senses, practicing discipline. How long can this go on? This just other than some vivid dreams and things like that, I'm not able to experience that growth. So, and I told him about Brahma Granthi and all of that. He said, everything is good, but your Manipuraka chakra has to be blessed, and you need to invoke the energy that takes care of these chakras. Without invoking that energy, you will go nowhere. And I said, what is that energy? He said, you have been raised in the Tamil family only for this energy to be awakened. So awaken this energy. It's easy for you. I don't have to tell you about this. And he told me about Murugan. And so being raised in this as a South Indian and in the South Indian family, and Murugan being our main family deity, it became easier for me to relate to that concept, right? And I believe when I was in my mother's womb, my mother chanted this many lakhs of times because she wanted a boy, and she had 2 girls earlier, whatever, all those stories. So for me, it immediately clicked, just like that. As if I was familiar with this energy forever. It clicked. I said, okay, so what do I do? He said, you have to meditate on this energy and invoke him. So when I say invoke him, it means when you take these mantras like Om Ganganapatiye Namah and all, you go deep into that practice. Deep into that practice. And then you will know when you're progressing to the next. So because that Shakti, the energy, the deity, the being comes alive and begins to guide you. Okay? So here's Subramanya with his 2 wives. Not Subramanya alone, Subramanya with his 2 wives is here. Okay? In this Manipuraka, you begin to awaken him. You begin to worship him, call upon him. So there is bhakti involved in my practice of Kundalini Yoga. I'm not treating this energy as some weird energy, some scientific energy and so on. For me, through bhakti and through prayer and meditation, I was able to link the mother, father, son's relationship along with their, the animals and the symbolism and everything. Everything made sense to me as Kundalini. The 6 heads of Muruga are the six chakras, the six aspects of Murugan, the six temples, if you will. Tirupura Kundram was the temple that was carved out of rock. It's carved into the mountain, out of the rock. There was a portal within that. That signifies the earth element, the Mooladhara. Payani was where Murugan, the son of Shiva, in the stories, right? He became an ascetic, just like Brahmacharani of Devi. He renounces everything, goes into severe ascetic penance, control of the senses and all of that. He wears a loincloth and becomes a sannyasi, because he wants to realize, how could I make a mistake like this? It's related to the mango fruit story and so on. So he goes into deep meditation. That is a Swadhisthana. He's that temple. The way he has revealed himself to me, I'm saying. Then he prepares for the war with the demon. He becomes the commander-in-chief of the Deva's army. That is the Tiruchendur temple in the Manipuraka, which is a very, very powerful temple. In fact, the entire tsunami that came, and this temple was right in the path of tsunami in South India. If you check the map, you'll see. And it is below sea level, and yet not a single wave came into the temple. So it is so beautifully done. That portal is so powerful. Okay, the eye of Murugan in Tiruchendur temple, all the way from inside, is in perfect line with the keyhole of the main door. I think it must be at least 1,000+ feet away, across all the other shrines and so on. It's exactly the same. So they say that Murugan, with his eyes open, can see through the keyhole into the sea and keep the sea under control and so on. It's a very mystical, powerful place. So that is the Manipuraka chakra. So each of these temples, Tirutani has, the deity in the Tirutani temple has a hole in his heart, signifying that is the Anahata chakra. Then Swami Malai, where he is a guru, he speaks, he taught Om to Shiva. So that is the throat chakra, Swami Malai. And finally, with both his wives, in other words, Ida and Pingala, both merge into Agnya. So finally, with both his wives, Payamudir Sholai, he settles down in Agnya. So these are the 6 chakras. Now, is this right or wrong? You may not find this on the internet. But this is how I've seen it. This is how I experience this. And I can't shake my... this is how it is. That's all. Period. So, anyway. Now, there is this powerful mantra that I'm just going to share with you. You can start reading about it and all, and we'll learn it properly. There's a proper way to learn some of these mantras as we go on. This is called, and this is there on YouTube also if you want to listen to it. Pancha Dasha Akshari mantra. Pancha Dasha Akshari. Pancha Dasha means 15. Dasha is 10. Pancha is 5. 10 plus 5. Pancha Dasha Akshara. Pancha Dasha Akshara mantra. That is this mantra. This is the mantra that will activate and energize all. We talk of cleansing chakras, right? This is the mantra that does it. Whatever that cleansing means to you at that point. It will cleanse all the Ida, Pingala, everything. Everything will be done this. If you don't have time for pranayama, if you don't have time for meditation, if you don't have time for anything, this one mantra will begin that journey and begin to help you. That's why I said don't understand this as a linear progression. We might suddenly click into this, and you might just take this as the practice. Go into it deeply. Then the guidance will come. Then Ganesha will come. Then all of these energies will come to help you and guide you. So how is this mantra? It goes like this. Om Shreem Hreem Kleem Aim Eem Nam Lam Sauh Sharavana Bhava. Sharavana Bhava. 6 and 9 Bijaksharas, including Om. Om, Shreem, Hreem, Kleem, Aim, Eem, Nam, Lam, Sauh. So those are 9 and 6. So that is the mantra. You meditate on a young Subramanya with his 2 wives. There are enough pictures that are available for that. These are all, again, how does Murugan look like and what all of that. All of that is very symbolic. Okay. you draw, paint, bring out the Murugan in your mind, how he appears to you, or how he gels with your thinking, because these are all formless entities. We have ascribed forms, right? And all of these are artists' representations. So understand that as long as the basic fundamental principles are in place, he has two wives. That is, both the Ida and Pingala come together into Sushumna. He, along with Sushumna, he begins to control you and help you and bless you. So let's hold on to this for now, and we'll work on this Manipuraka chakra and types of meditation more in detail when we revisit this at a later time. Let this one peel, this layer reveal itself. But to me, this is a very sacred mantra. Okay. Petals are 10. I'm going to go through this slightly fast because we have done this earlier. Like I said earlier, for me, these petals have always evaded me for some reason. I've never been able to visualize them very clearly as such, and I've not felt the need. Even to this day, I've not felt the need. And all these deities come alive, and the journeys are amazing in a mystical sense. The experiences are wonderful, and the knowledge that comes is so profound. But these petals have always evaded me, so I've never understood. Perhaps it was more of a tantric practice where they brought this in. But the way I understood this, the way this Guru Appaya taught me. So Appaya, whom I call him, he's the one who taught me that mantra. He said, do this mantra and Murugan will guide you. So the rest was history from there onwards. Manipuraka 10 petals, I have understood, and he taught me just understand them as the 5 senses and the 5 senses of action, 5 senses of perception. So I'm just going to put it out here. We have touched this in many classes, and we will be revisiting them again and again. You have the 5 senses of cognition. What are they? Hearing, touching, seeing, tasting, and smelling. And the 5 senses of action that are corresponding here: elimination, procreation, movement of hands, and movement of feet. So both are movement. I just called one as movement because you can move your hands and still be in the same place. Movement of feet, you actually move from place to place. So there is a little difference in these two movements, right? So movement of hands and feet and speech. Speech. Let me move. There you go. Speech. So these are the 10 petals of this. So in other words, this energy of Murugan, when you chant this mantra, along with all the other practices, it becomes even more powerful. That is the only way I practiced it. So along with all the other practices, the senses, all of this, the control of the senses, everything becomes easier. So this ties back into Swadhisthana, helps to draw the energy upwards. So Murugan's grace, if I want to put it that way, draws the energy into the Brahmarandha, into the Sushumna, draws. Okay? Why? Because the senses begin to get clearer, under control, disciplined by themselves, with little effort. Of course, effort has to be there, but with little effort, you're able to control them, and the energy gets channelized. So along with you pushing up, Murugan's energy begins to pull up. So how do we activate these energies? That leads us into these practices. Before that, what is the color and energy? The green is the color for this chakra. Before the sunrise, after the dawn, before the sunrise, the sun is from the darkest part of the night, I said pre-dawn, you come to the dawn, right? Slowly you begin to see this dark, deep blue color of the sky. And then suddenly the sun doesn't come out. Between that and that lies slowly the whole thing lights up. It's like setting the preliminary show before the main king comes out. So it's like all the advertisements come out alive before the main film starts. So what are these advertisements that come alive? The light comes out and you begin to see clearly. Territories are clear in your consciousness. This is where my body is. That's where the tree is. This is where the wall is. And you begin to see greenery around. You begin to see landscape around. Now, you and I, if we live in cities, we may not see that much greenery. But understand it from a pure yogi's perspective. He opens his eyes after deep meditation on the Mooladhara Swadhisthana, and he begins to see greenery around. That is why the peacock color in the Murugan, in Tantra and Murugan and the worship of Murugan. It's called Pachamayil Vaganane. He's called Pachamayil Vaganane. Pachamayil means a green peacock, literally literally if you translate that. Now there are no green peacocks, but there is a greenish element because the green and blue are merging into each other. Don't they have in a sari, they call it Mail Pachai? Okay, they have a sari called Mail Pachai. How do I know? Because I know my mother constantly keeps saying this word Mail Pachai and all. So Mail Pachai means the peacock green. It could be understood as aquamarine blue, aquamarine blue, if that's the term for it. The idea is green and blue mix. So it's like the sea which has got the green and blue together. So the greenery of the landscape merges into the blue color of the sky before the sun has risen. Once the sun rises, he's taken over everything, right? That is the beauty of this chakra. This chakra is where the earth and the sky begin to meet. That's why this is the turning point, a very powerful point. So the color of this is green. Whenever you see greenery, think of warmth, because Murugan is a hot planet, hot energy. And so warmth of the sun is contained here. The prana from the fire is contained here. This element, this chakra is connected to the fire element. Now you might say, wait a minute, fire is orange in color, fire is red in color. Why are you saying green? How do we mix the two together? Very simple. Close your eyes and think of tropical paradise. Tropical paradise. Whatever that tropical paradise is. Maybe Kerala for those of you who live in India. Maybe it's Florida here. Or maybe it's Trinidad and the little islands. Tropical paradise. What does that mean? Does it mean everything is orange in color? No. More green in color. Green trees, green plants. The more greenery it is, the more sun's energy is there. So the ability to store the sun's energy in Manipuraka is through greenery. This has to translate itself into food as well. So we will understand prana through food, through green vegetables. This is why green vegetables are naturally considered good. It's not, science has not discovered. This is why it is. Green holds the energy of the sun. Greens hold the energy of the sun more than anything else. And when we consume them, that energy gets stored in the Samana Vayu, is able to now distribute that energy very easily. You're helping Murugan distribute that energy easily. The deity who's sitting there rides this green peacock. Pachamayil Vaganane. So you see how they're all linked. They're all linked. It's magnificent. Our Sanatana Dharma and the Puranic stories, if you begin to meditate and understand them, allow the deity within them to guide you, the meanings are amazing. None of them are based on some ridiculous blind beliefs. The practices may have lost their way and may have become very rigid and so on, for God knows whatever reason. But the essence has never been like that. So that is the color and the energy. Just before sunrise, when you see greenery around you. Very pleasant time that is. Very, very pleasant time, right? That is the beauty of this energy. What is the main obstacle in this energy? The main obstacle that you will find that you have to overcome here, just like we had fear in Muladhara, habits in Swadhisthana, likes and dislikes, getting caught. Consciousness gets trapped there. In Brahma Granthi, it was a combination of these two. In Manipuraka, the main obstacle is lack of confidence. You have heard the term butterflies in the stomach and all, right? So lack of confidence comes from where? From the lack of definition of the I, improper definition of the I, poor definition of the I, the crest jewel, the money. The money that lies in the pura, the money is there, the jewel of the I that is there. If that is not properly defined, then the confidence lacks. If that definition of my depends on my status of how many cars I have and all of that, then I might project a false sense of confidence. But so you can understand where that comes from. It comes from the I. The I is in the Manipuraka. The I is being born there, and the more this chakra begins to open, the more of the inner beauty of the real I begins to reveal itself, and all of that begins to get reflected in all the chakras. The 2 below and the 3 above. All of them. And that opening of these chakras begin to embrace and enrich and empower all your body and all dimensions of thinking. So when this Manipuraka begins to open, you will experience a deep sense of self-confidence, not pride. Pride comes from lack of self-confidence. Pride and the show-off thing and the need to be very vocal about what you think you are and all of that comes from a lack of self-confidence. Okay, deep confidence comes from, I know who I am. I don't need to project myself as something else, right? That kind of a thing will come. So that is confidence. So don't mistake that with pride. And clarity of perceptions. Clarity will come. So you will no longer start saying, am I doing this correct? What am I doing wrong? I don't know if this is happening. All this confusion, lack of clarity comes because the Manipuraka is just fluctuating like this. She has not, this beautiful flower in the Manipuraka is not revealing this deity. Once Murugan begins to awaken, he is the commander-in-chief. He is very, very clear, very sharp, of the gods, imagine. So the son of Shiva, there is no fear in him. There is tremendous confidence and yet great reverence for his father, great love for his father, and so on. If you understand the qualities of Murugan, Kartikeya, automatically this Manipuraka chakra will get blessed. You don't have to connect Murugan and meditate on him in your stomach region and all. It doesn't work like that. Like I told about Shiva Shakti, like I said about Ganesha. Meditating on those energies will correspondingly work in these chakras. That is why in Bhakti Marga, you don't worry about chakras and all of this. You just lose yourself saying, I want to meditate on Murugan and enjoy and listen to the Leelas and without getting... See, where we make the mistake there is we think something happened in the past. Oh, Murugan is somewhere. Who am I? That is where we make the mistake. Enjoying the stories and the Leelas, we should begin to understand, oh my God, this energy is within me. So awaken, Murugan, awaken, reveal. And that joy of being so close to this divinity is what we miss. We begin to imagine, it's an imagination, we begin to imagine a distance. That's why we miss it. So, lack of confidence is an obstacle. Lack of clarity is an obstacle. That's why we have so many questions. Once he awakens, question cease. Question cease. Then he goads you on to practice. And every practice begins to start giving joy. When you start beginning to enjoying your spiritual practice, when your yoga practice becomes intoxicating, then you know he's awakened. What is the time to contemplate? Like I said, it's before sunrise. So you see from dawn, from pre-dawn to just before sunrise. That is what the Kundalini path is. Every day she displays this beautiful path just before sunrise. This color, energy and the time was told to us by Baba himself in that short interview. He said, this is what it is. He didn't say color and energy. He said the energy. He said, there is no colors. This is the energy of this. When you see the greenery around you, that is the energy of the next chakra, the Manipura. And like this, it goes on. So we will discover that tomorrow. Give me a few more minutes. I might extend a little more. So bear with me. Asana practices. So you had hip opening routines and kriyas. Here, back bends and inversions, standing inversions, not inversions like headstand and shoulder stands. They do have effect, but when you stand and bend down, and when you do those kind of stretches, they are also very good. It begins to activate the Muladhara, the Manipuraka. That is why the Uddiyana Bandha, which I always keep saying, Uddiyana Bandha is the most important in asana practice. Uddiyana Bandha is most important. You holding the stomach pulled in begins to activate this fire energy. The Manipuraka gets activated. Murugan, who is dormant, begins to get up. Okay? When you listen to these Puranic stories of Murugan and all of that, please don't ever misunderstand that he was an angry thing. It's dangerous and he gets angry and he holds a spinal cord in his hand. Veil, the spear is the spinal cord. That's what it is. And the peacock opening the feathers is the final Sahasrara opening. So he represents the entire Kundalini path to us. So he has a spinal cord in his hand. Give yourself into his hand and allow this deity to work. It's magical. Kriya practices that we do here is the Agni Sara Kriya, which we have already started in our everyday yoga classes. And Nauli Kriya is a little difficult. I have one video that I put out there, and there are hundreds of videos that you can learn. Nauli Kriya is something you can also practice, provided you have the right age. And if you have excess belly fat, it's going to be very difficult for you to do the Nauli Kriya. But Agnisara Kriya itself is good. So Nauli Kriya adds on to it. Nauli Kriya is a very, very powerful exercise. There's no doubt about it. In my own personal practice, when I get up in the morning, the first thing I do is these two Kriyas. In the class, I just do it along with the class. But I spend at least 15 minutes doing these two Kriyas on my own. This is an important Kriya. That is how much time I take. Okay? Agnisara and Nauli Kriya. You have to constantly churn both sides, Nauli Kriya, because it moves the prana keeps shifting between Ida and Pingala, Ida and Pingala, Ida and Pingala, and opens both the nostrils for the practice and for deeper meditation. We learn all these things slowly, so don't jump into anything blindly because I've said this. Please bear with me. There's only this much we can do in every session. Pranayama practice here. And again, don't go reading the internet and straight away jump into this practice. This is again only for theoretical knowledge at this point. I have not taught it yet. Bhastrika pranayama is a pranayama that adds on to this Agnisara Kriya. Bhastrika is bellows of a blacksmith. That's how they describe. Your stomach goes in and out, in and out. As you breathe, it awakens the Agnisara. It awakens the Shakti inside. But one has to be very careful. Not everybody can practice Bhastrika. So if you cannot practice Bhastrika because of certain medical, physical reason, especially if you are prone to hypertension, if you have high blood pressure, if you have migraines and headaches, you can't practice Bhastrika or Kapalabhati. You can't do that. It's not safe for you to do that. Once or twice, one occasional workshop you attend and you do, that's fine. But don't bring it into your everyday practice. Unless through diet and control and without any medication, your blood pressure is normal and all of that, then only you can get into Bhastrika. So when is Bhastrika learned by younger people, by younger children, it's easy for them to learn. So don't get disappointed if for some reason you're not able to learn Bhastrika. You have the Agnisara that you can do. Agnisara is also very, very good. Okay, I'm just throwing open how these practices come. Then meditation practice here is you meditate on the form of Subramanya. This is what I did. I meditated on the form of Subramanya, right from the feet to the top. I took one particular picture which I liked, which my father has and given it to me, and I just meditated upon it. It's an old Tanjore painting we have. It's broken and it's all kind of very, very old from my grandfather's, his wedding time or something somebody gave him in Tanjore because we come from there. And therefore, I have that painting that is in my, that's very easy for me. And so I meditate on Murugan and the full... the peacock at the back is a spear and his two wives and so on. Find a picture if you feel like and meditate if you tune into this deity. Okay? This is the son of Shiva. Is an aspect of Shiva, not different from Shiva. So Shiva created him so that he can give a path to Shakti to reach him. And so it's said that he brings mother and father together. So for me, meditation on Subramanya was Subramanya with all the 6 heads and 2 wives. Japa practice here, that mantra that I did, how did I practice the japa? I was visualizing and thinking about this. So visualization of Murugan and thinking this mantra, bringing it more into verbiage, if you will, by thought process, is the process of practicing a japa in Manipuraka, because it will finally find a sound later. But at this level, for the Manipuraka to understand how sound vibrations happen, you begin to visualize. First you feel, then you think, now you begin to add visualizations to your mantras. Japa practice. I don't know if I'm done. Yes, I am. My dear brothers and sisters, there is a lot to learn in each of these, because I know there are so many questions coming in your mind. I can feel it literally, because I would be, if I was in your place, how do we bring all of this into practice? Which to practice first, which to practice next, or what if we don't have time, and this and that, and so on and so forth. There's so many questions. We will address this one at a time. But this was merely to show you and expose you to one madman's path, if you will. How this path opened itself to me, and how these deities revealed and so beautifully guided me in this awakening, which is why I've never felt that this was a dangerous path. Never felt. So thank you so much for your patience. May the divine being, the supreme Shiva that exists in all of us, bring clarity to our thoughts. Give us the wisdom to understand these in the right perspective. And may his son, Kartik, Bhagwan, Subramanya, or Murugan, as many of us in the south know him, may he bless us and take charge of our entire life, the life force, if you will. Let him begin to guide us. Ganesha, as the elder brother, hands it over to Murugan, and then Murugan takes over and guides us all the way up to his father. Let us end this class with one Om and three Shantis. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.